All right, today we are jumping headfirst into one of the most cryptic, most talked about chapters in the entire Bible, Daniel 12. Seriously, this thing is packed with wild timelines, promises of resurrection, and this mystery of a sealed book that's only meant to be opened at the very end. So let's see if we can unseal it together. Wow, so the chapter just drops you right into the deep end with this staggering prediction. It immediately sets the stage for a period of absolute unprecedented chaos. But, and this is key, it also sets the stage for a great deliverance. The stakes are as high as they get, and you can just feel the weight of what's about to be revealed. So how are we going to tackle this? Well, we've broken it down into 5 key parts. First, we'll look at that time of great trouble. Then, we'll dive into the promise of deliverance and the 2 resurrections. After that, we'll explore the whole mystery of the sealed book, then try our hand at decoding those final timelines, and we'll wrap it all up with the personal promise made to the wise. Okay, so this prophecy kicks off with this epic time of trouble. But right in the middle of all that chaos, a powerful figure shows up to stand for his people. So, who is it? This figure is Michael, the Great Prince. And here's where the source commentary really gives us a key insight. The name Michael actually means who is like God. This has led interpreters to believe this isn't just any angel, but the Messiah himself, stepping in to protect his people when they need it most. So what exactly is this time of trouble? Well, the main interpretation ties it directly to the absolutely horrific events surrounding the destruction of Jerusalem by the Romans in 70 AD. And get this. The language Daniel uses sounds almost identical to what Jesus himself says in Matthew 24, when he warns of a great tribulation unlike anything the world has ever seen. The point is, this isn't some vague, far-off event. It's anchored to a real, devastating moment in history.
But here's the thing. Even in the middle of all this unparalleled disaster, the prophecy doesn't just leave you there in despair. No, it immediately pivots to this powerful message of hope. Deliverance for some, and a really stunningly clear prediction about what happens after we die.
The text that everyone that shall be found written in the book is going to be delivered. Now, according to the commentaries, this has a bunch of different layers. It could mean the faithful Jews who survived the persecution of Antiochus. It could mean the early Christians who heeded Jesus' warning and fled Jerusalem before its destruction. It could mean future converts. And, in the biggest sense, it means everyone whose name is found in the book of life at the final judgment. It's a promise that really stretches across all of history. And this brings us to one of the most direct, explicit descriptions of resurrection in the entire Old Testament. The prophecy is crystal clear. Death isn't the end. It's like a sleep that everyone wakes up from. But here's the deal. There are only 2 destinations. Some wake up to everlasting life. The others wake up to shame and everlasting contempt. There is no third option, no middle ground here. It's one or the other. Now, this idea gets picked up in a big way in the New Testament. The Apostle Paul connects Daniel's prophecy directly to the resurrection of Jesus. He calls Christ the first fruits of them that slept. Now, this is a really powerful metaphor from the old Feast of Harvest. The first fruits was the very first sheaf of barley that was offered to God as a promise, a guarantee of the full harvest that was still to come. So Jesus' resurrection is that first fruit. It's the promise of a much bigger resurrection for everyone who believes. And the picture gets even more detailed when you jump to the book of Revelation, which talks about a first resurrection. This is specifically for those who are called blessed and holy and who will reign with Christ. It suggests there's a sequence to all this, a distinction between the resurrection of the righteous and the final judgment for everyone else. You can see how all these prophetic threads start to weave together across the Bible. Okay, let's shift gears now, because we're hitting the central mystery of the chapter. After Daniel gets all these mind-blowing visions, he's given a really strange command. Don't share this. Not yet, anyway. He's told to seal up the book. And here's the command right here. Shut up the words and seal the book. But look at the condition attached to it. It's sealed until the time of the end. And what's the sign of that time? A period when many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. So the unsealing of this prophecy is directly tied to an age of intense searching, discovery, and information. But here's the catch. This explosion of knowledge, this new understanding, it's not going to be for everybody. The text draws a very sharp line in the sand. Despite all the searching, the wicked shall not understand. Only the wise shall understand. And this really gets to the heart of the chapter. There's a huge difference between just having information and having true wisdom. And this slide just lays out that contrast perfectly. You've got two kinds of seeking. On the one hand, you have Daniel, where people run to and fro and knowledge actually increases. But then you look at the prophet Amos, who describes a future famine, a famine of hearing the word of the Lord. And people will run to and fro desperately looking for it, but they won't find it. So what's the difference? Well, as the commentary points out, it all comes down to wisdom versus wickedness. The wise search, and they find. The wicked search, but they come up empty.
All right, everybody, take a deep breath. We're about to wade into the most complicated, most debated part of Daniel 12, the numbers. Even Daniel himself says, I heard, but I didn't understand. So hey, if he was confused, it's okay if we are too. Let's see if we can crack this code based on the interpretations given. Okay, so the first timeline we get is a time times and a half. This phrase is pretty consistently interpreted to mean 3.5 years. The source material links this period directly to the final brutal years of the Jewish-Roman War, from about 66 to 70 AD. And the prophecy says this period ends when the power of the holy people has been completely shattered, which points right to the destruction of Jerusalem. Next up, we get the number 1290 days. Now, you'll notice that's pretty close to 3.5 years, right? And it's tied to two key events, the daily sacrifice in the temple being stopped and the abomination that maketh desolate being set up, which is code for the desecration of the temple by pagan forces. Again, it's another laser-focused reference to the events right around 70 AD. But then, we get a third number, and this one is different, 1335 days. The prophecy says, blessed is he that waits and comes to this time. And the source commentary offers a really unique interpretation here. It connects this number not to ancient history, but to the Islamic calendar. The year 1335 on that calendar corresponds to our year, 1917 AD, the exact year of the Balfour Declaration, which was a huge political step toward reestablishing a Jewish homeland in Israel. I mean, that is a fascinating and incredibly specific take on what this blessed time could be. So, after all of that, after the epic prophecies of war and resurrection and these really cryptic timelines, the vision zooms in. It ends not with some big cataclysm, but with a beautiful personal promise for the people who choose to live wisely and righteously. I mean, come on, this has to be one of the most beautiful verses in the whole book. It says, the wise will shine like the brightness of the sky. But then it says there's an even greater glory for those who turn many to righteousness. They will shine like the stars forever and ever. It's saying that the ultimate value isn't just in what you know, but in how you use that wisdom to help others. And then, the entire book of Daniel comes to a close with these direct, quiet, comforting words spoken right to the prophet himself. After everything he's seen and heard, after being told to seal it all up, he gets this personal reassurance. Go your way, for you will rest. And what that means is that this grand, sweeping, epic prophecy ends on an incredibly intimate note. Daniel is basically told, live your life, you'll die in peace, and then, at the final resurrection, you will stand in your lot. In other words, you will rise and you will receive your promised inheritance. It's just a beautiful, peaceful final word after such a turbulent vision. And that really brings us to the final thought I want to leave you with. The prophecy said that in the time of the end, knowledge shall be increased and that the wise will understand. Well, look around. We are living in an age of absolutely unprecedented information. We are all running to and fro across a sea of data every single day on our phones and computers. You could say that part of the prophecy has absolutely come true. So the question that Daniel leaves ringing in our ears is this. In an age of endless knowledge, what does it truly mean to be wise?